Well, Sarah, here you are. You're again. You were my first guest almost 40 episodes ago, and a lot's happened between now and then. You are now a YouTube. What is it? Megastar or superstar? Which one is it?
Not quite there. Not quite there. We're working towards 400,000, but it's been a journey. I mean, I remember starting this with you when there was nothing. It was just TikTok, and I've since quit my job. I have since been, signed with an agency now, so they're going to be helping me with, my production and my editing and just really taking the brand to the next level. And they really believed in the mission of what I'm trying to do, which is just really bring understanding between the sexes and explaining the idiosyncrasies of how we work. I think that there's not a lot of information out there, at least when I was. This whole masculine feminine thing is kind of new. I see people talking about that a lot now, but I still think that there's some information that needs to be had, that needs to be said.
Yeah, you've definitely blown up, like I said. And is your demographic mainly men, or is it split down the middle, like 50-50, and women are in there as well?
It's about 80% men, about 20% women on all the platforms. But it's interesting as I'm noticing some shifts that are happening.
Really?
The more... so here's how it gets broken down is men are really looking for solutions. Right. They don't like to spend a lot of time on like the frou-frou understanding, like let's go deep in it. So the videos and the tactics that I give that are very, solution oriented. This is what you do. This is how you approach a woman. This is how to spot things in a woman. These are red flags that you look for. Those tend to get like a lot of attention by a lot of men. But then when I go more into kind of the deeper psychological stuff about why we do the things that we do, how like our childhood impacts us, that's the stuff that women tend to gravitate to. So it's really interesting. It's very interesting. I haven't really kind of figured out why that is. And maybe because, again, women are a little bit more in their feelings and their emotions. It could just be a male or female thing. That's how we take information. I don't know. What do you think as a man? Like, what kind of content are you drawn to on the internet?
Well, for me, I'm hands-on. I have to, let's say if I needed to fix something around the house, I look up a YouTube video, right? And how do you fix blank? And I would, okay, here's this, I'm watching the video and then I'm hands-on touching it. So that's the way I learn. But tied to our space, I remember when I was in a toxic relationship and she cheated on me, and I'm like, I was a good man. What the hell did I do wrong? And I just went into YouTube and said, why did she cheat on me? And the first coach that came up, this is like 4 years ago, was Coach Corey Wayne. And that's the one that I still follow because I found my life experience tied to him. Like, hey, I was already doing that. I didn't know I was doing that, kind of naively. That's a word. But I was just doing what he had already preached. But that one part where why did she cheat on me? He more or less was cut and dry. You did this. You went into a servant role. You weren't mad. You didn't keep your masculinity up, and you became like a servant to her, and she lost respect. And I'm like, I didn't want to hear it. I got pissed off, but he was right. And I'm like, okay, so that's for me as a man. That's what I like to hear. I don't like to I don't want anything sugar coated. If I was a weak man or a simp, I want to hear that. And that's where
that would be triggering if you heard that from a woman, or does it feel different coming from a man? Because I often wonder that, like, if you saw me say something of why she cheated, would that be too close to home for hearing it from a woman?
Well, I got triggered with him, like I said. And if a woman said it, I don't know how I would have reacted. I would have been maybe the same way. Like, well, you don't know, maybe kind of like try to separate myself from what she was saying. Like, no, you're different. You don't know exactly what I was going through. I guess hearing it from a man was like, yeah, he knows how we're treated. He knows how we're lied to. He knows all the hardships we go through. So that's why I connected more with me. But the problem I'm having is like I just told you, I like to hear things bluntly, like give it to me straight, doc, like we hear in the movies, right? No, don't sugarcoat it. I deliver that message, but I piss off a lot of men. They really don't like me. I get called simp. I get called a beta, all these terms. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you like it is. Maybe I can work on that, and that's on me. But when I give that same advice, I get nothing but just hate comments all day, every day.
Yeah. Well, that's because that it's just pure projection of what they're feeling and what they're hurting. People, there's no solace in looking at oneself in the mirror and saying, wow, maybe I'm doing this. Maybe this is my fault. And the reason why is because people, it goes way back to childhood. It goes way back to shame, right? Like it's deflection. It's, if this was my fault, then like I have to take responsibility, and it's the feelings that elicit that make it so hard. It's shame. It's like, oh, this reminds me of when, I felt shame when I was a child, when my mom made me feel this way. And it's like an escape route. If you can blame someone else, if you don't have to take responsibility for yourself, then you get to say, oh, no, it's their responsibility. You don't have to look within yourself to grow. So that's why I think there's a lot of people on the internet that are just looking for pure validation of the experience that they're going through. And that, I've realized in my content, it's shifted more from, a year ago when I started TikTok to now, really, I went from almost contributing to that male kind of anger and giving them validation. But then at some point I thought to myself, wow, like this isn't creating change behavior. This isn't really helping anyone.
Right.
It's just saying, it's like coddling and saying, you're good. It's fine. Like, it's okay. Blame her. Don't look at yourself. But that is a pattern that I found myself in. And I kept on getting into relationships that kept failing over and over again. And until I had sat down, I had a therapist that said, what do you want? What do you want? Do you want to be angry? Do you want a relationship? Do you want to be with a man? And I said, well, yeah, kind of, but they're all this. And he goes, no. Let me back up. Like, it's not them. It's you who is picking them. It's you who is allowing them into your life. And that information right there just absolutely changed everything for me. So my content has shifted as well, because, you have to realize that there's a healthy level of validation, and then there's a healthy level of pushing. Just like when your kid touches the stove, you don't want to shame them and say, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe you just did that. Why didn't you listen to me? Like, you're such an idiot. That would completely send your child into a shame spiral, right? They would go in their room, they would be disappointed with themselves, and then they would grow up to think like, oh, it's all I don't listen, it's all my fault, right? Versus, hey, I love you, buddy. I understand why you did that, but like, do you see the consequence of that action? Do you see what happened? Then maybe
now you know not to touch it, right?
Exactly. Like now you can make better decisions with the information that you have. But I think that a lot of people had parents that were, that were the shamers, that were the guys that made them feel terrible for themselves. And then they take that into relationships with them later on in life.
Real quick, time out. Can you move the camera a little bit over? Because you're off on my side. There you go. You're like over to the right of the frame.
Good.
And let's see. There you go. Now you're center frame. Perfect. Yeah, okay. There you go.
I have my back. I'm filming today, so I'm all like, but it's my background.
Look at you. You got a whole studio back there.
It is. My living room has turned into a studio. It's so funny with my agency. I'm like, if guys come over, they're really going to question what's happening here in this house.
Like, is she a cam girl?
Exactly. I'm like, it looks like I'm a cam girl. Yes. Even with the teleprompter. Anyway.
Yeah. Going back to, you said the shift in content, there's a decent amount, right, of validation yet, but then there's also, you got to push them. Do you find men, since that's the majority of your demographic, and you mentioned they're loyal, and I get that every audience is like super loyal to their favorite content creator, right? When that shift in the content occurred, did they become defensive? Did they fight back? Did they want to keep you in the validation space?
Yes, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
So I've lost a couple thousand followers on Instagram since I've started to shift.
Wow.
YouTube still keeps to be going up, but TikTok, I haven't lost any. I just haven't been growing as fast. But that is the price that you have to pay for being a conscious creator. Unfortunately, you can't show up in a space. You have to make a decision. And I've done too much growth on myself to show up to work every day and say, you know, I'm going to give you what you need. I'm going to sell out because of money. I'm going to do the things that I know will make me money, that I know will get me likes and hits and all that. I have to wake up and look at myself in the morning and serve and do the things that are a part of my recovery as a human being and all that I've been through. So unfortunately, you know, as you shift, and I've had to kind of take deep breaths as I watch things change. Unfortunately, it is just the way that it is. You will attract the right audience eventually. Things will start to clear themselves out. You'll start to get more people that are looking to grow, but you have to just stay the course and not get concerned with the vanity metrics and the constant watching of views, because that's an addiction within itself as a creator.
You said vanity matrix, right? Metrics, vanity metrics. What I've never heard that. What is that?
Yeah. Vanity metrics are the metrics that you get when you post something and then you look to see, like, how is it done? How many comments has it gotten? How many shares has it gotten? Really, when you create a piece of content, in the back of your mind, you should be thinking about, you know, who am I trying to serve? What message am I trying to put out? What challenge am I trying? Like, what am I trying to teach people? And if that's your message, if that's your content, if you're speaking from your life experience as a coach or as a leader, you know, Martin Luther didn't create speeches in the back of his mind going, I think this is what they want to hear, so I'm going to give them this. You know, it's like, no, he shared who he was as an individual, and then people related to him what he was saying, found something that they could connect with, and that's why people get a following, not because they're just getting people who do validation content. They're not taken seriously, and then secondly, there's no service involved in that. You're just a creator. So it's okay. You have to go in deciding what it is that you want out of this life that we're in, right? As far as this creator economy. But I have had to, when I post, it's like I post and I ghost. I don't look back. I don't watch. I might, you know, look at the comments and see who I can interact with, see who's like really willing to learn. But the majority of people are really just looking to feel validated. Like, damn it, I knew she was a whore.
It wasn't my fault.
It wasn't my fault. Yeah. You know, and then, but that doesn't do much for people.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because me and my fiance were having a discussion with that. She was asking me, what do you want from out of this? And I've noticed, I was talking to, who was I talking to? Levi Washington. He asked me, was there been a big difference since the day you started till now? And I'm like, honestly, yeah. When I first started, if you go back and watch my videos, I was like, I'm never going to get married. I'm never going to have kids. I'm done, right? And the hell with that life. Yeah, and I just shared, like, do you remember this day video? Like, well, I'm never going to get married again. And that video, like, is taking off. I talked about cheating, and that's how the growth kind of happened. People wanted to hear that real life story, etc. And as I've healed in myself, in my relationship, my content is not anti-marriage. It's not anti-woman. It's not, I'm never going to get married again. And I've slowly seen it plateau, so to speak. And I go, well, let me try Facebook. And I shared my same videos on Facebook, and that blew up. I'm at 50,000 on Facebook. Nice. YouTube, I can't get traction because I know it's a male dominated platform. And the videos that I do post where I'm anti-woman, anti-marriage, those get the engagement, those get the clicks. And my fiance was telling me, well, that's not you anymore. I'm like, I know, but I go, there's no engagement. I mean, am I wasting my time? What do I do? And she goes, well, what are you trying to do? I'm like, just help young men find themselves before they get into, you know, marriages. People love to hear about cheating. I know that type of experience. She goes, well, just focus on that and don't worry about the engagement. Don't look at the comments, because as a creator, like on TikTok, you know, that's my main demographic, 300K. I post and ghost, right? But for the platforms that I'm not successful at, like YouTube, I'm like at 2,100. and I post, but I see how it does. Like I go back a few hours later. Okay, is there any traction? Did it get shared? Sometimes there's 0 views.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what did I do wrong? So I'm always researching other YouTubers, yourself, and just seeing what the topic is. Maybe it's my delivery. Maybe the message is kind of lost. But I've fallen into that vanity metric sort of thing, just to not, I wouldn't say vanity. It's more like, is it clicking? Is it connecting? Do I need to improve? Do I need to improve my speaking skills? So I always look inward whenever I'm in any work environment. Like, what am I doing that I can improve upon that? So that's what I've seen in my space. And I notice if I tweak my content and sound a little bit more aggressive, like if I shout and say, women are this, that gets engagement, but I don't want to sell out. I can't.
Yeah. And I've done the same. I think that if I come out and say the double standard videos, oh, poor men, and it really is true. I mean, you all do have certain things that I don't think a lot of women are pointing out, but I will say that as a woman on YouTube, I feel I have seen other content by men that is typically the same that doesn't do as well. So that is a reality. And I'm honest about that. Being a woman on YouTube versus being a man on YouTube, I think is hard because the competition is stiffer. But also Instagram is a different platform. There's a lot more women on Instagram.
Right.
So the content that does really well there is more validation for them. I mean, I've seen, and you've seen Emily King has grown quite a bit on Instagram, but her content is, again, very validating for men, very, and that there are content creators that are at 20,000 people and they're making a very good living because they're serving a small base. They're giving, they're sharing their advice. They're teaching courses on a very specific topic. So it's like, that's what I mean. A creator can have 2 million followers and be making less than somebody who has 10,000 followers. That's the vanity of it. You have to remember, okay, like, what are we doing? Are we serving? Are we selling courses? Like, have we built out a funnel of places where we can send people? So that's a little bit about the content creation, is just some people have a big following and are still broke. And
yeah. And I know, like, you're like the 4th YouTuber I know who's doing this for a living. And once, like, I think not necessarily 100K, there's guys who make 50K followers and have a decent living. Like, it's nice to get enough, like a $500 check or more every month. But if you're over at 100, I know you can quit your job and all that. So I understand that. It's also a few of them that I've known have been doing this for a few years now, and they're at the point of burnout. And they're like, this used to be fun. I used to like talking about this. Now I'm at the point where, like, oh God, it's like, I've already talked about this topic. Like, I've done 4 videos on this already. They really want me to talk about it again. And it gets like a repetitive thing. So for them, they've always been cognizant of evolving, like staying in the same niche that got you there, but slowly bringing, like, inch by inch, incrementing something new or something that you're excited about as a creator. Because the worst feeling, and I've been there myself in front of the camera, is like, I don't want to do this video.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this right now, but damn it, I have a sponsorship. I gotta record it.
Yeah.
And so we've all been there, but it's important, like, to evolve and all that. But congratulations, though, because your success is well deserved. But it's a dream that many people strive to have. Like, they think, she's just making videos. That's not hard work. So for those people who think that, or who are dreaming to be in your shoes, right? What realities can you give them that's prepare them? Like, hey, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, man. It's actually hard work. What can you give them?
Yeah. I remember my sister-in-law, we were at a Christmas function or something, a couple of, maybe it was last year. And she said, well, how hard is it to be a creator? All you do is just make videos. And I chuckled. I just kind of went, oh, okay. So, I mean, I started this when I had a very, very full-time corporate job, 9 to 5, 9 to 7, really. I worked for a pharmaceutical company, one of the largest in the world. And I was doing, so like, sans that, I was doing double time. I would stay all day on Zooms with my corporate job. I'd shut my computer down. I would get online. I would start scripting out what I was going to say. I would do one day of scripting. Then the next day I'd do it all over again. Then I'd get on and I would do another day of filming. And there was a point in time where I was posting 3 or 4 times a day. I was uploading 3 or 4 times a day. I spent about $20,000 in coaching, understanding how social media works, how to make it a business, what mindset that you need to have to be successful. I started networking. I would network with people after work. I would go try and find people that were doing what I was wanting to do, and started talking to them. How did you do this? What did you do? Then, so people think that this life is just waking up and creating videos. There were times when I would be scripting something. My laptop is I'm laying back here on this couch. It's 12 o'clock. I'm exhausted. I'm scripting. I shut the laptop and I literally fell asleep on the couch. I'd wake up at 6. I'd go back to my corporate job. I'd shut the computer. So it was constant. And people were like, why are you so busy? And I go, you don't understand.
Yeah, they don't get
this is a job like you have never had before, because the way that the algorithms work is, they reward consistency. And then when you get a video that goes viral, you better take advantage of it, because then you have this window of time that the algorithm thinks that people want to see your stuff. So you got to capitalize on that. You got to understand how to feed the algorithm. And these algorithms are always changing. So one month you could be great on Instagram. The next month you could tank because of the certain types of content. So then you have to think, okay, well, let me test new content. Let me continue to kind of see, is words on the screen do well? What are the SEO topics that people are searching for on YouTube? So if you're not researching, if you're not networking, if you're not writing scripts if you're not, I tell people I write 3 or 4 term papers a week. That is my scripting. AI doesn't script for me. Like, I do everything, the research. So if you want to be a good content creator, you are signing up for about 60 hours a week for about a year at least. Yeah. Everyone you talk to, and then learning how to build a product portfolio to sell. Like, your friends are burnt out. Being a YouTube creator is very hard. But if you look at Mr. Beast, if you look at all these people that have been really successful, they have created a product ladder where there's chains and he has chocolates, he has snacks in Walmart. He has this halo
restaurant. I think a burger restaurant somewhere.
I don't even know what he has, but I, getting on there and watching Think Media, Sean Cannell, I binged his videos for months, every day. How do I understand these algorithms? What does SEO mean? I'm very lucky because I don't have any kids. I don't have that. That's a hard situation. Especially I talk to, I have friends like Lauren and other people who have other situations that they have to find time to create, as well as yourself, to create content.
And Lauren's blowing up too. I saw she just crossed 100K on her platform. So congrats to her as well. It's
her stuff is that reaction. The reaction stuff does very well. Yeah. Reaction videos are, some people have just pure reaction channels like Abba and Preach. I'm sure I don't know if you know about them.
I came across them lately as I started diving into, my primary focus is YouTube, and I started diving in like Pearl, but I don't like talking about them, but I see Pearl, then they pop up and like, oh, these dudes, like, it's all reactionary, just talking shit about one another and all that. So,
well, and they do that preemptively. So if you don't know, they're all in a network together. The Red Pill space, I'm going to Miami next week. I will be, talking to different types of podcasts, and
very cool.
If you can't beat them, why not join them, Rudy? What can I say?
Yeah. From the outside in, as a new person, right? I see this, right? But I see the hustle, and I'm like, okay, Destiny's saying so many horrible things about Pearl, horrible things, and then the next week they're on a panel together. I'm like, oh, this is like the WWF. This is all like characters. They're all just talking shit in the ring on the video, but then being behind the stage, it's just all really just networking and just, people love drama. So they're just stirring up the numbers and stirring up the pot. So I saw the hustle, and I even saw it more so with my friend Angela Knight. when MLD, that whole thing occurred in
I remember that. Yeah. What space is what? I don't know who that is. I started seeing her, but only because of you. So was she's relationship or was she? What was she?
She calls out toxic behavior. She gives dating advice. She's 28. She's engaged, and she came from a very poor background like myself, right? So we're all like not self-made, but we were better than what we were. Made tons of mistakes and we're better people. So she gives advice about relationships and dating modern women. You know how to improve your, so more or less like you, but she's more or less starting now, but she's starting to blow up as well. And again, I saw how that interaction with MLD and all the other, I guess, red pill guys were reacting. I'm like, how can they back somebody? They're always saying women are not, they're always emotional. They can't be held accountable. They think irrationally. And then one of their own acts that way. And they're not calling him out. And they're like, oh, it's all a show. It's all a shit show. This all just characters. And that's when I kind of understood the game. I'm like, okay. So I get it now. I get it now.
It's unfortunate. And that is, if we want to talk about the red pill space, I did a video recently about it and I haven't released it yet. Just debunking the hypocrisies of the red pill space. Just for example, they say that men love, younger women. Give me a 23-year-old who is young and fertile and fresh. But most marriages, 80% of marriages in the U.S. in heterosexual relationships, the age gap on average is about 2.3 years. Only 8% of marriages have a 10-year age gap or more in the U.S. I also did a poll on my Instagram and asked, and the reason why it got brought up was because I was working with a client who was dating a woman who was much younger, and they were really struggling. So I've had a couple clients now that I've worked with who have dated younger women, much younger, and have really struggled in multiple different areas. So I think I think that some of these guys in the red pill think that their anecdotal experience about what they want, right, is like basically what all men want, or like they put it into this category of, oh, well, if I want it, then that means, here, guys, you should go after it too. But then when you start looking at the bigger picture and like the macro of what they say, none of it checks out. It's like, it's not correct. So they can say what they want to say.
And a lot of these podcasts, like in Miami and all these others, when they talk about relationship advice, they're really talking about themselves. Because a lot of these guys, like I had Sterling Cooper on, I know you're going to have him on soon. Out of all the people that I've spoken to, he's one of the coolest down to earth guys. We talked a long time after the show was over. Super cool guy. But these men are millionaires. So they're talking about, I want a harem of women, she's going to be loyal to me, but she can't have any other men. I'm like, well, men with power in that type of like pool can ask for that. In some places they do get that because the women understand, hey, he's going to take care of everything. He's going to do his thing. I'm taken care of. Look where I live. Men like that can command that. The 98% of us who don't have that money can't relate to that. So when I hear these guys talking about they're going to lose everything in a divorce, the alimony is going to be skyrocketed. Yeah, if you're a 1%er and you marry somebody who was a waitress, that's probably what's going to happen. But for the majority of us, that's not the case. So a lot of the dating advice and the women they speak to, the women they highlight, all these OnlyFans models, IG models, these are not women that regular men can obtain, so to speak. That's why I think there's a lot of hatred toward these women in the chats. Like, oh, they're all this, they're all that, whatever. But that is not a realistic portrayal of what the common man can get.
No. And furthermore, if you're attracting women with superficial things, such as money, such as the ability to take care of you and give you all that you want, there's a level of emotional intimacy that you're not necessarily going to have, especially if you have three different women. So it depends on what you want. If all you want is to have a sexual relationship with a woman and to have your main squeeze, she's going to have some sort of pretty deep attachment wounding in general. And that's something that they don't talk about, because most women who are very healthy and are very securely attached within themselves are not going to be okay with you sleeping with another woman.
Right.
And it's funny because they say that, women have like a dual mating strategy, which is alpha seed, beta need, but they are also talking about a dual mating strategy themselves. And they don't necessarily ever seem to point that out, that you want a woman to be committed to you, to have your children, to raise your children, but then you also want to be able to be promiscuous. There's nothing more dual mating strategy than that.
Exactly.
So I'm not quite sure that sometimes they say things where I go, you're really talking out of both sides of your mouth.
Yeah, you're talking out of your ass. And a lot of them, again, being married, right, 16 years and knowing plenty of people on paper, I can see how that is very, alluring. Like, oh, hell yeah. What guy doesn't want a bunch of women in a room ready to satisfy him? Every young man and anybody who doesn't know what marriage is like would want that. But again, me being on the other end of that, there's so many things that are going to go wrong or can go wrong in life. And if you have having one wife is hard enough, because you're not just married to her, you're married to her family, her siblings, and everything that goes on. So I remember when my ex-wife, when her mom passed suddenly of cancer, my wife wasn't the same for a couple of years. And I remember being angry about that. Like, where's my wife? So life events like that happen. Health events happen. You're just complicating your life to just a whole area of things that you've never considered. And it's just going to make your life a living hell. To be honest, it really is.
I don't think that a lot of men want multiple women. I really don't. They might fantasize about it. It might be a fantasy of like, I wish I could do this. Yeah, of course. But like, I wish I could eat potato chips all day and not get fat, but I have a salty tooth. That's not going to happen. So we have to wake up and make decisions. I wish I could drink as much as I want and not feel hungover. But at some point you wake up and consciously say, I'm going to choose to be with one person because there's so much personal satisfaction and growth and intimacy, and getting to understand somebody at such a deep level provides so much satisfaction in life.
It does. But they don't understand that. No 20-year-old guy is going to understand that. Even a 30-year-old guy. I do now at 46, but most guys won't.
Maybe. Yeah. And I think that this kind of gives them, if that's what their dream is and if that's what they have to look up to, more power to them. But I think that they're going to find out shortly, if they proceed with that lifestyle, that they're going to be in a lot of pain and they're going to cause a lot of pain to other people. Typically, I get men who want to graduate from the red pill. Like, they find me and they've had enough, or they've realized, and it's funny because I didn't even know about this space until I have one friend, one ex-boyfriend. We could say we're friends. We're really acquaintances. He's moved on. He was married, divorced, college. This was college. He's a musician as well. So he is, I'm a musician. He does booking. So I would get gigs from him with his agency. We talk very once in a while. And he was the one who found the red pill space and told me about it and said, hey, this is really interesting. You should read The Rational Male and you should do all this. And I did. And that's how I found Paul, Come On Man. I found Rollo. I found all these guys. And I've read the books, but then I've also read David Buss's books, right? Which is Evolutionary Psychology, The Evolution of Desire. And I'm
halfway through that one.
It's kind of this. It's
the same thing.
It's the same thing. Like, you're just talking about evolution, but the way that you paint women as far as hypergamy, and there's actually new studies that have been done on hypergamy that are actually, it's debunking hypergamy, that more women, the more education they get, they are dating down more, if you could say, dating down. Hypergamous relationships are starting to disappear because it doesn't really necessarily exist. Women can have education, women can make more and not look down upon a man and say that she's going to leave him. There's other things men can do to establish leadership and bring value to a relationship other than finances and resources. But that's just my personal opinion. Yeah.
And the whole educational thing. And when I hear hypergamy, I mean, let's be honest. Even when I was dating, I didn't want to date anybody who was doing worse than me. That's not necessarily a bad thing, especially
that's hypergamous according to them.
Well, right. They can shut the hell out, because that's not true. Because again, I know what I want. Again, everybody knows more or less. I know for example, you know what you want. So you would want to date somebody at your level If not at your level, somebody who's ambitious and who has a plan and knows how to problem solve like you, and like you have no doubt on him. He's going to make it. It's just a matter of time. So I know you would probably feel the same way, but we all want somebody at our level who's doing comparable. I mean, that's natural, I think.
Think about how people have dated throughout history, right? Kings have dated queens. Jokers have dated gestures. There's a certain level. I'll give you an example. I spent a lot of time in London. My grandmother was from London, lived in a beautiful neighborhood in London, and they have a class system there. The way that they can tell someone's class is their voice, is their accent, how they speak. So there are a lot of people that will try their whole lives to change their voice because of the indication of like where they are at in their status of life. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people just in general date within their class because of it's just what you're used to. It's who you know. Like for example, if I brought a guy home who, let's say, was chewing gum out of his mouth, was spitting out, was talking with his mouth open, didn't know how to greet my mother at the door, was disrespectful to my brothers, was cursing all the time. Yeah. There would be some conversation after that they would say, hey, you know what? It's like you date someone, you want to be with someone that fits in. Like you said, your wife, you're dating her family, your partner. It's like, that all has to work. So the hypergamous thing is just kind of like, okay, well, duh. Typically people date within their class system. And this is how it's been for a long time. Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing wrong with it. So when they say that, I had a debate with this younger guy who's a red pill guy, and I guess I'll call him out. Like he's watched too many of these shows, and more or less he's trying to replicate that show's, fan base by really not having an original thought and just repeating verbatim what we've already heard. And the conversation came up with dating younger women. I'm like, why do you want to date younger women? And he goes, well, they have less trauma, less baggage. I'm like, well, what do you mean by trauma? Well, I don't want her to have like life experience, like all these bodies. I'm like, no. I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about, what do you mean by trauma? And he goes, well, I don't want anybody coming in with all these red flags, this and that. And, she needs to be comfortable within my frame. I want her to be a clean slate. That way she feel protected in my space, in my world. I'm like, okay. Well, and I countered and said, well, trauma is a good thing because let me explain why. Because you want somebody who's had life, punch them in the nose, but they've recovered. They've healed from it. They knew what happened and they moved on because they say 80% of divorces are filed by women, right? Well, I mean, let's talk about that. Maybe let's say you married somebody who's very young. And she doesn't know how to deal with life. And that one life moment comes when you're married and she doesn't know how to handle it. Most people don't know how to handle a crisis situation. You can handle arguments, but what if you have a stillborn? Like I had some friends who had a stillborn. What do you do then? Or like an in-law dies, or you have a kid who's got severe autism. That's a major life event. What are you going to do then? Most people quit and file. So you want somebody who knows how to handle trauma in life and who says, okay, babe, I got this. They're going to work with you and not leave you. That's why it's important to have trauma. He's like, no. My frame's going to hold it up. I'm like, you motherfucker.
Well, it's funny because they say that women who are above the wall, or where they hit the wall. That's so stupid. Basically what you're saying is that men above 40 as well hit the wall because they're the leftover men for the women. You're criticizing women over 35, but then you're also denigrating men who have also done work, who are in their 40s, who are 40. Some of the most amazing men that I've dated and that are out there are men in their 40s. They've gone through divorce. They've been through a ton of trauma. They've had to rebuild themselves, right? Because then when the next person comes along, not to make the same mistakes. You've taken inventory of who you are. You're able to self-reflect. You've done all sorts of work on, I don't want to make the same mistakes in this relationship. And I know without a doubt, this is what I'm looking for. The biggest problem that I have found with guys that I coach that are older, that are dating much younger women, is the disrespect and the level of they take them for granted because they don't have any experience.
Yeah.
So they have no clue how to treat a man. And so there's this loop of disrespect. And this guy's over here going, I've never been treated like this before. What is going on? And I said, because she doesn't even know what she's missing.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know how to treat you because she's never had any experience. So you're going to get the 18-year-old Sarah versus the 38-year-old Sarah are like night and day.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate men. I had no idea. They were jerks. They were assholes. Nothing could explain to me what a man was. So I took them for granted and I didn't treat them very well. And that's a lot of women in their 20s. Yeah. They don't know what they're doing. So
when they get into an argument, they'll like block you. And I don't want to talk about it. They'll just take all like, wait, let's talk about it. No.
Silent treatment. I don't know how to use their words, dysregulated emotional experience. It's so date someone that you care about. If they're 10 years younger, great. If they're 10 years older, great. Finding a connection is so hard in general that if you put all these rules and you put all these barriers, and if you are automatically disqualifying someone because they have a divorce, good luck to you. You're going to have a smaller pool. And again, guys who have access to all the women are, let's say if they're 1%, there's less than 10% of those types of men because a lot of men don't make six figures. A lot of men don't bring all of this to the table that a woman who is that young would want. And furthermore, when I have guys hit on me that are like in their 60s or, maybe in their 50s, I'm not interested. It's not like women don't want to date men who are super older than them. Just my personal opinion, because there's not enough life experience. Like there's too much in between there.
Yeah, I'm actually one of my clients. She's a model, a beautiful model, and her boyfriend is 60 years old. She's 30.
How does that work? What is that? What is she in for?
I don't want to say too much, but it's this man is very wealthy.
Yeah.
Very wealthy, very a business owner, a world traveler, and there are some daddy issues.
Okay.
And more or less wanting to leave the life of what she's been doing and have security, like plant roots. And this guy's it, but he's a very mature, handsome man for being 60. He's really handsome, right? He's aged well, but I've seen that. And it's like, okay, to each their own, I can't really speak more than that. I don't want to give too much details. More power to him. But I find that once you said the daddy issues thing, I thought, that makes a little bit more sense now. Yeah, it does. But the dating world is really complex, but I want to go back to the bullet points here that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot of guys really go to YouTube. Like I said, for me, I was heartbroken. Why did she cheat on me? Or other guys want to get laid. They want to figure out how to be successful with women. Like, and again, with your platform, are you finding men want to find the one woman to get married, or do they want to just be better with women to get laid more?
No, I do find that there's either two camps. There's typically the men that really could care less about women and are just there to cause drama in the comments and validate that women are horrible. And they've probably dated or been married once in their life or been on 5 dates. I can kind of tell their desperation. But there's also a huge cohort of men that are following me and that I coach, that I talk with on a daily basis, that are really trying to understand, why did she shut down? What do I do? What do I say when I approach a woman? How do I come across as being confident but not creepy? How do I meet high quality women? They're trying to figure out where they are, where are they hiding? Just like you, what do I do? What did I do? How do I not scare them away? Yeah. There are actually a ton of men who are looking for that.
For looking for that. Yeah. And it's good that they're reaching out to you because they're going to get some sound advice. And again, having that clear answer is that, but one of your videos, it says, let's see, what do I have here? What turns on a woman? you recently did that.
Okay.
So and I know a lot of guys like to talk about that. Speaking of which, your video that the first one we did, oh my God, like how to get a woman wet. That one, it recently blew up again. I don't know what the hell happened.
It did?
Yeah, because it blew up when I first posted it, right? And then it's kind of went dormant. Then all of a sudden I looked one morning, like 20,000 views in one day. What the hell happened? So that was good for me. But again, I think that's probably how you saw the video. But guys really want to know that. So to turn on a woman, for the guys who don't know, because guys think you need to have abs, you got to be 6 foot, you got to have money. That's what turns on a woman. I don't have any of those. And I did pretty good on my own doing that straight from a woman's mouth. What turns on a woman for the guys out there?
The biggest thing is your presence of intentionality. And what I mean by that is when a woman feels that a man is 100% there, it is the biggest turn on that you can ever have with a woman. So when you show up to a date, or even when you're in a relationship and you show up being intentional with asking questions that lead you to answers that will tell you a little bit more about what she values, or you're sharing stories about what you value, sharing stories that are intentional, just like you are with a career, showing intentionality in your career, not over sexualizing, not treating her like she is just an object of your desire, truly wanting to get to know her, because attractive women feel this all the time. Are you really with me because you're genuinely interested in me, because you genuinely see yourself with me, or are you just with me because you want to sleep with me? So intentionality in texting, as far as men are very information driven. So I'm going to text her for this date. I'm going to set it up. And then there's this space in between. Now I know Corey Wayne might disagree with me. No offense to the 3% man, but when a woman connects with you, let's say on an online dating app, or when she's just starting to get to know you, she starts to establish a story in her mind. And the questions that she's asking herself are, can I trust this guy? Is this guy who he says he is? And every time you show up on my phone, every time a text messages come through and I hear from you, or I hear, how was your day, beautiful? Tell me about it. Women are all about lubrication, but it all happens here in between our ears. Being intentional with your touch. If I'm just meeting you and I went out with someone the other day that I had my hands or somewhere on the table, and he noticed my watch and he touched my watch and touched me, and he created that physical, that energy. Right. And I thought, oh, that was very nice. There's that confidence.
I've used that move. Yeah.
Yes. But, having confidence, being very intentional about what it is that you're looking for, what it is that you want, being communicative, talking about sex, talking about your fantasies, and not getting defensive, using vibrators in the bedroom and not making it about you. The quickest way to have an orgasm for a woman is through vibration. It can happen in 30 seconds for us. Yeah. So if you're able to, talk about certain things, about what makes her comfortable, or going and buying something like that together, going to the store and being like, hey babe, what do you think about this toy? This looks fun. And just having that playful intentionality about you, and just wanting to make her happy and show her that she's safe. Hey, no matter what we talk about, no matter what the situation is, you are safe with me. That is lubrication for a woman.
I totally agree with the vibrator. I got my Love Witch one. It's helping you out, guys. It's saving you work. Because I don't know if I shared this with you or not, but we obviously have a baby, right? 7 months old. And the pregnancy was very hard on her because she was never supposed to have one medically. This was a miracle baby. Amazing. So she was in pain or just uncomfortable the entire time. So we didn't have sex for 8 months. And I've never, since I was a kid, have gone that long not having sex. So I took care of myself when I had to, right? And that's what I needed to do. And 46-year-old Rudy understands that. My younger Rudy, when he first went through that, I couldn't have gone through that. I would have went insane, been that horrible guy. What about me? All that stuff. Anyway, but when we finally started doing it after the baby and she healed, I go, I'm gonna get you a toy because it's been so long. I probably have horrible, like I'm not in the condition. I'm probably gonna be out of breath. So let's bring that in. So we've been using it and it's working. It saves me trouble, but again, you have to spice things up. And and again, that's just me and her because we have that wonderful dialogue. But are you finding men don't want to even entertain that idea because they'll like, no, I'm going to satisfy you. Like, why are guys so like apprehensive with bringing a toy in the bedroom?
Well, there's a lot of ego involved in the bedroom. But there's also a message that women hear as well. Think about it. It's not necessarily safe for us to talk about our other experiences because what do we think is going to happen? Oh, I'm going to scare him away. I don't want to tell him about I don't want to tell him what I like because in the back of his mind, is he thinking about me with another guy? Like where I learned this potentially from? Or so people become very closed off when it comes to sex. They become very hyper aware of what comes out of their mouth because they're in fear of how the other person is going to react. You have to let all of that go. You have to be 100% comfortable. And a woman, she has to be able to come to you and say exactly what's on her mind. And if she feels that safety, if she feels like, oh my God, he's not gonna leave me after I tell him this truth. Once again, these are all ways to turn women on, and it's not what guys need to get turned on. It is the complete opposite of what guys need to get turned on. So it is more complicated for us because we have a greater risk from a pregnancy standpoint. We have a greater risk of STDs. We have greater risks of just involvement emotionally. We are more guarded and we have to feel things differently versus men. I could walk around in my robe and it would be completely fine. You guys would be good. But for us, if the house is a mess, if there are things that need to get done, if the bank account is being drained, if you're in scarcity, women have all these things going on. So getting her present through touch, through massage, through talking, through cleaning the house together, and then sitting down and Netflixing and chilling, that is really a way to kind of start the process of getting her in the mood to be in that sexual mindset. Right.
That's gold. That really is gold. And again, I hope the guys who are listening understand that at no point did Sarah say you need to go to the gym, get muscles, you have to make money and drive Bugatti. She didn't say anything about that. It's all about you. And I think that's the problem with a lot of young guys out there that are lost because they think that's the way to turn on a woman visually. And to an extent, there's attraction. Attraction definitely works. But guys, you need to work on yourself. Everything Sarah just said, that's like kind of like maybe step 2. Let's go to step 1. Work on yourself. Have the self-confidence, be comfortable in your own skin, how you talk to people, how you communicate, be self-aware of how, people's emotions and things you say, and knowing your space. And I think that's where guys get lost. You can have all the muscles and still be a dick and not know how to communicate with people. And you 100%. May get laid, but it's not going to be something everlasting. It's not going to be something that you want to marry.
I've been out with so many men who are incredibly successful, who have 7 cars, because you get to this age and you can start to, there's some men out there that have done very well for themselves. Yeah. And I have not gone out with them again, or the relationship has, deteriorated very quickly because they're either extreme workaholics. They're not able to be present. Their phone is constantly going off in the background. They're distracted. They're not able to sit in stillness. They're hyperverbalized. They're constantly talking about themselves and their accomplishments. Those are all big turnoffs. because, a woman who also, women now are making their own money. So they don't necessarily need you to make as much as you might think that we want you to make. And just because you show up with a Rolex on, that tells me nothing about your character. Tells me nothing about you. That does not get me wet. Like, okay, you show me yours, I'll show you mine. But what it is it's the fact that they've taken the time to understand themselves. They're intentional with their values. They're intentional with their speech. They're able to verbalize, like, this is what I want in a woman. Oh my God, if a guy says that to me on a date and he is very clear with like what he's looking for, it is like, oh God, then it's like Corey Wayne, genuine burning desire. I'm like, okay, hold back, Sarah. Like, don't give in too quick, because then you, as a woman, that elicits a response, like an animalistic response. And oh my gosh, that man can keep me safe. That man knows he has boundaries. He knows exactly what he wants. And the money is just an indication of the life that you have built. It takes stamina. It takes hard work. It's all the characteristics outside of the money that we're attracted to. Because in order to be successful as a man, right, you have to have a certain amount of focus on your life. Yeah. You have to have boundaries and schedules, and you have to live. Jocko and Will and all these successful guys, Brad Lee, I can think of, Matthew McConaughey, whatever, Brad Pitt, The Rock, who's doing very well with his Arnold Schwarzenegger. They have all had extreme discipline and focus in their life. And that is what makes a woman attracted, wet, feel safe. That if you can create that feeling for a woman, she's all yours.
Right. There's a variable that I think a lot of these red pill coaches are missing, because they think they see the Marion guy, they see all these other coaches and how they speak like this. And lady, you don't know what you're talking about. Very authoritative and all this other bullshit. It's a character. But some of the most powerful men I know, like I have a couple of mentors here in San Antonio, and they're millionaires, right? They own many restaurants, many businesses, and I meet them every quarter. And the variable that I see with them, they're great leaders, but they have layers, and they have empathy. And they're humble. And I think any man of power who's worked so hard to achieve what he's had, there's a certain level of humbleness and empathy that they have. And when I see one of these guys with this level of money and wealth not have that, that tells me it was never self-made. It was more or less given. And that's what they have told me as well. But I think having empathy helps people relate to you, and being humble also as well. And I think that's a variable they're all missing. And I know for me, when I started dating, like I told you, I made them laugh. I knew what I wanted, and the maturity and the realization of what I had done and what I am now and the world in front of me, that made them feel safe. That made them feel wonderful. They loved that I was so positive. They loved that I was not too demanding, but I was very comfortable and just positive. And that really helped me in my space.
And you know why that is?
Why?
Why you made women feel safe with that? And when a man is able to talk about what he's learned and the process that he has gone through, it signals to a woman that you have high competency. And go way back to caveman days when women were looking to you, right, for protection, and the lion is coming. They want to know what your process is for protecting me from danger. I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to give you my babies. I'm going to give you sex because I want you to stay with me and protect me. But when you share everything that you've learned and how you've gotten from point A to point B, and you're humble about it, that tells me that if we encounter danger, if he's good with money, he's not going to bankrupt us. If he has friends, he knows how to create a social circle. If the world ends, he's going to have that. If he has done, you know what I'm saying? Like if he's gone through personal growth, that means that if I experience depression, if he experiences depression, if something happens from an emotional standpoint, he's going to be able to get us through that. I can look to him for that leadership. That is what and it's like very subtle. and men don't understand this, that like women are examining these things. Unfortunately, that's just how we are. That's how we're built. We're examining these things, and we're looking for areas that you can fill in the gaps where we can't. And that's where the hypergamy sets in, because we want to look up to you from a leadership perspective. We really do. But it's not hard. What you've done with your life is exactly what brought you your love witch. Is just your ability to self-reflect and share what you've learned and grow from that. Very sexy. Very sexy, Rudy.
Appreciate that. Thanks so much. It's funny you mentioned the protective piece, because I've never said I'm an alpha. I don't project myself as one, but when shit goes down, that's when I get into dad mode, protective mode, right? Little story, and it's a little gesture that I never thought would mean anything to my love witch, but it turned her on. And let me tell you what it is. We went to Fiesta here in San Antonio, a couple of months back, and we're in line to get her a funnel cake. And this line is, I don't know if it's like this all over the country, but it's a 45-minute wait because everybody loves funnel cakes, right?
Yep.
So we're in line, and right when we're about to go up, this tall guy stands in front of us. Like, who the hell is this guy? And she goes, I don't know. Is he cutting? And I'm like, I don't know. And I tapped him like, nah, get back there. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, sir. And I was like, yeah, you're cutting. Get out of here. And I just said that. And then he walked away, and she goes, I love you. And she kissed me. She goes, that turned me on. I'm like, why? Because most people hate confrontations, and most guys would just not say anything, but you told him to get the hell out of here. And he did. Yep. So that little thing did it.
That's as simple as that. But exactly. It shows that, like, you got her back. You have your back. You can protect her. I love that. That's such a simple little thing, that
a thing you would never think of or see like on any show or anything like that.
And I'm sure it was a good night for you. That night.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. Like I said, we're getting back at it. And I love that she's got baby weight. She's curvy. Like, oh my God, like, I'm going insane over here. Anyway, we're off topic. You also did a video called What Women Want in the Bedroom. And I want to touch on something real quick, because, again, I've had a lot of red pill guys, and I've seen this all over the place where they say men need experience. They need numbers. They need a high body count so they know how to please a woman. Ladies, don't you want your man to know how to please you? So we need to have numbers. And I always tell this story. I had a friend of mine who had over 300 women. And it just so happened that I met a couple of the women after he had dated them, like in circles. Hey, didn't you date my friend so-and-so? Having a few drinks. And I go, can I tell you something about your friend? I'm like, sure. Both of them, he couldn't fuck worth a damn. It was just bam, 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 I'm gone. And he couldn't sleep with us whatsoever. He's always talking this game that he had all these bodies, but he couldn't perform worth a damn. So to the guys out there, you don't need a mass number of women to be a better lover. What you need is to communicate with her on what she likes and be mature enough to have those conversations. Like, every woman, I discovered this as well, down there, they're different. Some women like fast, some women like soft pacing. I mean, every woman's built different. So you have to be able to communicate with them. Like, tell me what you like, and go from there. Some women totally shocked me, love to be choked. I had never done that before. I'm like, well, here's my hand. Tell me how hard, things like that. So you have to learn. The numbers doesn't matter. It just the communication piece. But to your point, Sarah, I saw you did a video. What do women want in bed?
Well, I think that the choking thing is a dominance symbol, right? It's I feel safe enough with you for me to be completely submissive to you in this space. As I'm sure your love witch if she's Latina, I'm sure she isn't submissive in every space, right? I'm sure she has a great personality.
Oh yeah.
But like has a backbone. But in that space, women who are very comfortable with you want you. I love it too. They want that too. Yeah. Also agree with the point on the body count. That is not attractive to me. That's actually a big red flag for a man who has a high body count, because I think that tells me that you don't have necessarily standards for yourself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that, you don't necessarily know how to connect deeply with one woman. And you can tell a lot by a man, even just dating him and being outside of the bedroom, how he's going to do well in the bedroom.
Ooh, in what way?
So if he is kind of anxious and kind of shows up in this like anxious energy, and you kind of feel that, typically means that they're going to be a pretty anxious lover. Lovemaking is all about taking your time, right? Like undressing slowly, appreciating every part of her body, kissing different parts of her body, whispering, being sensual, different textures, running your fingers through her hair or her back. I mean, very intentional eye contact, pacing. It involves being very present. I talk about this all the time. Like being present is the key to like life in general, but especially in the bedroom. When you have typically more of an anxious attachment, when you don't really feel comfortable to be deeply intimate with someone at that level, you're not able to, you're always in your head. You're wishing that either it's over, or you're not listening for cues. Is she breathing heavier? Is she not breathing heavier? You have to be truly like one with another person.
Right.
And that is what makes a good lover. If you are changing a position too fast because you think that she's not into it, are you really paying attention? Are you really present? Like if she's in it, keep going there until she tells you to stop, or hey, let's move, or if you're getting tired. So what makes a good lover is just really, and again, intentional communication, and just asking her like, what is it that you like, and how can I please you? And if she doesn't know, then go on an exploration, like have a drink, go into the bedroom, say, we're not leaving for 2 hours, and we're going to figure out where your hot spots are. And you just be all about her, because at some point that like, you're either going to get it back or you won't. But for the most part, if you please her and she's a good woman, she's going to like give it back to you tenfold, or she's going to be present for you as well. But I did that video, and a lot of it was just get rid of your ego. Ego is out of the bedroom. Try and get her into the mindset of this is an erotic space where you feel safe, where you are 100% capable to be yourself. Let her make the noises, let her do all the things, and like tell her that she's hot, like while she's doing those things, like tell her how turned on you are.
Talk dirty.
Yeah. Like talk dirty, make her feel like, damn, like you see how hard I am. Like you're doing this for me. You're doing this to me. And there's a lot. I don't know how much we can talk about on YouTube, or like how much we can really get into.
Please do. I mean, I don't care. I don't care if it's demonetized or not, but go ahead. But to your point, you said the energy, and yes, we've all been around somebody where they're nervous, and that energy kind of like just is like contagious. Everyone else starts to get nervous, especially when you're at a maybe watching somebody speak in front of a class and they're nervous. Everybody else starts getting nervous. So guys, yes, your energy, again, going back to being comfortable in your own skin, you have to be in that element, because you can't fake it. Women are like, I don't know, you have some like receptors, something that you can pick up when a guy's not being authentic. Yeah. And if he's nervous, you will find it first. So you have to be in that space, because there's no way you're going to be able to get her to relax. I remember I had Caitlin V on my podcast, and she says women, in order to orgasm, need to feel safe. If they don't feel safe with you, you're just wasting your time. You're not going to get her there.
And a lot of times women will orgasm in their mind before they orgasm physically. They have to be fantasizing about you and fantasizing a lot about the life that they're building with you. I don't know. There's a lot of women that can have an orgasm or can be in that space without having an emotional connection with a man. I'm not one of them. I have to have a deep emotional connection with a man in order to, have an orgasm. So, again, that safety is all about just creating the emotional regulation is like you being confident in your skin and not pointing out, like if you take your shirt off, right, and you like immediately point out something that you're insecure about, it's like a mood killer for everybody. And same for women. You know, women need to own their body. You know, your love witch. I'm sure she does. I'm sure she has her insecurities about her body and how she feels. But if you take that into the bedroom, people are going to pick up on that. If a guy is, you know, insecure about his size, if he's not as big and he wants to be, and like that gets in his head and he starts to think about, oh, well, she's not responding the way that I want her to respond, or
staying
then you're
hard the entire time, things like that. There's so many things that go in a guy's head.
Yeah. And then you're making it about you, realizing that like, she's okay. She's just there for the ride. But then also orgasming is not always the end goal. You don't have to make orgasm the end goal of the sexual experience. A lot of times women, I think, would have more sex and men would have more sex if they asked for it and said, hey, you know what? Like, can I get like 5 or 10 minutes of just us connecting? And this is what that does for me. If a woman feels really safe, because there are some times in the month where it's not possible for us. Our levels are off, our hormones are off, we're in pain, you know, we're just not really feeling it. Like orgasming is like a big deal. But for a woman, a lot of times if she's really truly in love with her man, she wants to please you. She wants to show up for you and say, okay, like 10 minutes before bed, you know, here, let's just do it. And it's not like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's she realizes that I'm going to give this to my man as like a gift, that I love him. I care for him. I appreciate him. And I don't have to reach climax. But sometimes men get so stuck on that train that they're like, nope, we're going through, like it's 20, 30 minutes in. And she's like, oh my God, I'm just exhausted. I just want to go to bed. Like, I just wanted to do this for you, or I just wanted to connect with you. And because we also feel connected with you when we have sex. So it's so much pressure on the orgasm. Like, take the pressure off and focus on looking into each other's eyes, being in each other's body, in each other's space. And I guarantee you, if you go to bed like that and you wake up and let's say you get it on in the morning, like, you're going to create a safer, beautiful place for yourself to have even more orgasms. But it shouldn't be the goal for sex.
Right.
Sex should be about connecting and making you all feel closer to one another.
Yeah. And I remember thinking about that when I was married, like the scenario you just said, like, I just wanted to do you. Don't worry about me. I'm going to bed. I remember, 31-year-old me was like, no, I need to get you there. Why? Because in my mind, I thought she was not going to be satisfied and that she was going to leave me for something else. Cause I was just stupid. Right. But yeah, that's how men think. But you're all right. There's going to be nights where it's just not going to happen. And that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly fine.
Perfectly normal, and we are okay with it as women. Like, just give us if we're not into, give us an erotic massage, give us a good back massage, slip it in, have a good time, and then let's go to bed. And it doesn't always have to be this arc of having to get her to come. Yeah.
I do make it a goal. It's just like a rule of mine that I want them to have 3 to my 1. I don't care how long it takes. Well, because dating world, 3 to 1. Did you? Yeah, they tell me, and I can tell, right? There's many ways you can tell. But even with my love witch, now that we have, even before the vibrator, I want them to have more than me. That's just.
But
me.
What is that? But let me ask you, why? What does that say about you?
Why? Okay, in the root of it, I want the experience to be wonderful for them. I want to be a giver. I want them to be in a state that they're the center of the universe. Like, when I'm with somebody, they're the center of the universe. Like, nothing else matters. Tell me what you want. I'm here to please you. And when you're at a state,
is having multiple orgasms the way to do that? Or is that more self-fulfilling for you? Or is that what they really want?
Well, every woman's different, right? Sometimes when one woman, she has one orgasm, like, don't, I'm like, just get away from me. There's many different types of women. So it just depends, but I just want them to get there. For me, maybe it was more self-fulfilling because where that stems from is when I was married, there were so many things I wanted to do with the ex-wife, but she wasn't confident. She wanted to do it with the lights off. There's so many things I wanted to try and didn't have the opportunity. So when I was now free in the wild, I tried every damn thing. And it was more like trying out a new skill that you've always wanted to try. And now you have the opportunity to do it. And you were just so attentive I was just so attentive to whoever was there. Like, I want to try this. What do you think? Sure.
Yeah.
And just learn from it. So that was really it. And maybe it's also me making up for lost time. I don't know. But I just want every woman to have a wonderful experience.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that, these are the types of conversations that you might, having with your person. For those who are watching, it's okay. But, maybe I don't necessarily need 3 orgasms. Like one is good. Right. Or, it's like men kind of get in that space and that frame of, I have to do this or else. And it's like, the conversation that we just had, right, about checking your motivation, because women experience the same thing. They may not admit it out loud, but if I don't make my man, have an orgasm, it's like, oh gosh, like I might feel insecure about that. And so I have to be very open and talk to him. And as you get older, men also have lower testosterone. It may not necessarily come as easy for them, or there's something going on. They're stressed. A little bit different when you're a younger guy, but younger guys just wait. As you get older, there's some things that happen. So it's really important just to not take that to heart, to not take that personally, and to really maintain your self-esteem and don't make sex performative.
Yeah, I agree. And to the men regarding the the erections and being ready to go when you're in your 40s, it's weird. But like when I was single, that was never a problem. But now that I was in a relationship, that started becoming a problem later. But like I just told you, when she was pregnant, we didn't have sex. So I understood, okay, this is just a temporary thing. Like when I was younger, this is forever. Our lives are ruined. But I understood this was a temporary thing. So I just kind of put myself in the backseat. So I didn't think about it. And then like when she first touched me, I was like, oh my God, I was just like, I was ready to go. It was that touch that I needed and that reminder. And that was, again, ready to go. But even with that, there's times where you feel like I can't stay hard. What's going on? But that's just you in your own head, as you've already touched on, that anxiety. You're not present in the moment. But yeah, it does happen. It does happen for many other things. It could be your blood pressure. It could be you're thinking about bills. You're not in the moment. But yeah, it does happen. But it's still there. It's still there. You have to. And you know what's funny? I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to say it. Like I have a large mirror in my room, and I've never really. I had to move the bed around and all that since everybody moved in. And now we're looking like the bed. I'm looking. So the other day we're performing. I was having sex with her, and I looked in the mirror, and I had never looked in the mirror of myself like, I like this. And it did it for me. I was like, I like what I see. And the mirror did it for me. I don't know what happened.
It's like a little porno. You're like watching yourself in a porno.
Like, hey, I'm not that fat. I look good. But she looked great too. Yeah, but I've never done that.
And watch porn together, like do things together that are challenging, and just just communicate, make her comfortable, make her feel safe. And I think the sky's the limit, but you can't, if you don't talk, you gotta talk, and you gotta not. I had a guy who I cared about very much, but he was very insecure about toys and didn't want me to use them, and felt very, that was me kind of.
Was this an older guy or a younger guy?
Yeah, he was older. He was in his 40s, and I didn't realize how much that, affected him. And I knew at that point that I couldn't continue. It was, the relationship ended for many reasons, but at that point in the future, I said to myself, I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to be very upfront about what I want in the future. And if you are intimidated by that, if you are not comfortable with me using, certain things in the bedroom, then unfortunately it's not going to work, because I am an adventurous person. I seek novelty out in in my life as an individual. I go on new hikes every day. I walk on new beaches. I try and meet new people. And if there's like something I see on Instagram that's like new and, you know, kind of like, what's that? I kind of want to try it. You know, if there's something that goes in a, I mean, I'm getting like in a different orifice and I'm kind of wanting to try it. And if that's, and if you are, if that's not comfortable for you, then that means that we're going to have a value system that doesn't align, that you don't really appreciate that. And that's going to be, I'm going to have to compromise on who I am as a person in order to please you. And that leads to massive resentment. So that is not going to work long term.
And I'm thinking from a man's standpoint, why would he have a problem with the toys or trying new things? Maybe it's because they don't have enough experience and confidence in their own sexual game to entertain that. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, they say something that women can get like desensitized over time. I'm like, that's a myth. You might, okay, if I put it on there for 10 minutes, like you might experience some localized nerve damage, but that nerves regrow. Like unless you pierce it or damage the connections, you don't get like a long-term desensitization. And they've done studies on this and they've shown that's like impossible. It doesn't happen. So I don't know. That's a good question to ask our audience.
Yeah, that's a really good one. There was this one woman I dated and she said she hadn't dated in over a year, but she had a high sexual appetite, but she was using her toy daily. So I couldn't get her to orgasm because she was so used to her toy and she didn't want to bring it in with us. And I'm like, really? Okay. So what do we do? So we did some research. This is like back in 2017. And we found out that she had to reset it, like leave the toy alone for a week or so and then engage with me. And I was finally able to get her to orgasm, but she had been using a toy for a year, almost every day.
I think that though that was more mental, what I would say is, I think you get used to, as a woman, the experience by yourself versus the experience with another person. You're more self-conscious. You're more aware, like there's someone here kind of like watching me orgasm. But when you're by yourself, you know, you can just kind of let go in your mind. So I don't know. I wouldn't suggest that was more physiological. I think that's more psychological.
And the same thing kind of happens with men. And I've had a few guys kind of confide in me, like if you're always just masturbating and your grip is super strong, you know, you're not really going to maybe not find that in the world. Yeah. So you're not going to get that sensation if you're just constantly just using your own power. So that can lead to like
as well. If I've dated many, guys who are just porn addicted to porn and then trying to move that and quit that and get into the bedroom. I have a brother who was doing long distance with his wife for a job. There was a time period in their marriage where they did that for a couple of years. And he shared with me at one point that, he goes, I had to stop, before I saw my wife, I had to stop partaking in porn because it would really get in the way of our sex life. Mm-hmm. So it's a lesson, and we all learn it, and he learned it, and it was great. Now they're great moving forward.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, sir, I think we're running out of time here. I said an hour and 30 minutes, and we're approaching that. You're good on time?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you had like, meetings after this, all that. Let me ask you this. Ultimately, we want to help people find lives and, find themselves and be successful in dating and all that. And again, men, I think they understand that there has to be some sort of accountability. The victim blaming is one thing, right? It's women's fault. I don't have money, whatever. But as we just talked about for the last 30 minutes, they need to take accountability and be comfortable with themselves, being the best person they can be emotionally before getting in that space to have any success. Now, are they open to coaching? Because I have a theory. A lot of men that I've attempted to coach, it's gone horrible. Like they don't want to hear me coach them. Mm-hmm. And that's why I kind of stepped away from the coaching thing. I stopped building the website because I was just a horrible coach, or they just didn't want to hear what I said. I'd hear their story. I'm like, hey, have you tried this instead? Have you tried losing weights? Because you told me you're 350 and you're 5'8", man. I mean, come on. I know you're an engineer, but you still need to be marketable. And they would just get super upset with me. So I'm thinking these guys have never been coached up. Maybe they haven't had any father figures. But why is it you think some of these guys are just pushing back on coaching and just being accountable for improving? Why do you think they're getting so angry about that?
It probably does go back to, being raised with a single mother, kind of being coddled a little bit their whole life. Women, the reason why men say to not listen to women when it comes to dating advice is because a lot of times women will pad the advice. They'll kind of sandwich it in good, bad. They'll kind of make it a little Oreo where it's like, oh, let me deliver it this way. And then, oh, let me just get a little bit more. And then, okay, let me make you feel good again. But when it comes to men, if you have a man from a young age, a father who is a very strong masculine man, there were times when I watched my father out with my brothers, and the way that he talked to them, the way that he disciplined them was very different to the way that he disciplined me, right? He was very stern. He was very direct. He was like, these are the consequences that you're going to face. And my brothers would get upset about that. There would be some kind of jealousy in the way that my father disciplined them versus the way that he disciplined me. Not having that father figure it's very, very abrasive because they're just not used to hearing it. They're not used to hearing how a man speaks, and it causes 100% deflection. With a woman, what I have found is I am okay. I'm actually very successful as a coach because they see me as someone who understands their plight, who can provide this empathy to them. Hey, I understand where you're coming from, right? I'm a man's advocate, right? I want to be in the position where I can give you advice. So it's like, they see me as this empathy, but then at the same time, it's when I deliver that hardcore, pound to the chest. Yeah, it feels a little bit softer. But it also is, if they didn't grow up with a father, they're used to dealing with women typically, so they're used to having more of that advice given to them by women as well. They view you as almost like a threat. It comes across as a threat. You're a chief. You're a chief in the tribe, and you're gonna take from me is how they view it. So with women, it's a little bit easier for us to kind of give that advice. But I just think when it comes down to it is no matter whether you are a man or a woman, people change when they've hit their pain threshold. So it may not be you. What happens is that if someone, I'll not work with people, I've said goodbye to plenty of people where I don't feel as that they are ready because they haven't experienced enough pain. So for me, when I was at my rock bottom, right, I had had a Klonopin addiction. I was extremely anxiously attached. I was a mess. My life was falling apart. It was literally unraveling in front of my eyes. I had been in therapy for 5 years before that. I had been to different therapists trying to figure out what was going on. None of it stuck. Wow. Until I found the therapist that I needed at the right time when I was at rock bottom. And that point, I was ready to change. So again, a lot of people, men or women, are just trying to get validation to, oh, that's why she left. She's the problem. When somebody has reached their pain threshold, when they're finally ready to change, that's when you'll see progress. So I would keep going for you, I would keep going because you just might have to screen them a little bit more. And sometimes I ask people, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here? And if they don't provide a compelling enough answer for me, if I don't hear them say, I'm tired of being in pain, I am tired of doing this, I will do anything now, I say, all right, let's go. Let's go. I can work with this. Everything else is unmanageable.
And I'm still coaching, but I'm just not as how do you say, I'm not advertising it. And it's there if they search for it. And the majority was that experience, right? But I found, believe it or not, you probably won't be surprised by this. The women that reached out to me, they loved that I was blunt. They love that I was direct. They go, Rudy, thank you. I just needed to hear a man's perspective. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I got two different types of reactions delivering the same type of advice the same way.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And I think that goes way down to the women that were probably reaching out to you probably really also struggled with having that masculine presence in their life. So they're at that point where they're looking to have a guy who like is really super masculine and in his ability to command respect and authority. And like, that's what they're missing. And that's what they're looking for. So they're going to be a lot more open to you. But for the men that come to me, they're, you've seen the women in my comments. It has not gone well. I call women out all the time.
I've looked, but not searched, but I've scanned, but I've never seen a woman.
They are in there. I do have quite a few female followers and some, at first I was called the pick me. I was called all sorts of names for holding them accountable. So I think it has to do with just intersexual dynamics and how we relate to one another. And I think that men are looking, it's like the women that come to you are looking to date a guy like you. And the men that are coming to me are looking to be with a woman like me. So they're just more.
I've never thought of it that way.
They're just more open to the advice.
Wow. Okay.
So maybe you need to stick with women. Maybe you need to stick with.
Maybe because it's funny you say that because I've seen my demographic slowly becoming more women. It's always been more female dominant on TikTok. And when I blew up at Facebook with 50K followers, like in a month, a lot of guys are calling me simp and like, what does a simp mean? I'm not asking, but I was like, what the hell does simp mean? But all my advice, like I said, I guess I speak from the female perspective because of a couple things. When I, again, started dating, all the friends left me. I had no friends, right? So every woman I dated, it never really ended bad. I usually said, hey, it's not working out. I know you want this, but I can't give that to you. How about we just be friends? I have no friends. I need to start over. You're my first brand new friend. Let's just hang out. If you need guy advice, let me know. I'm here. And before you know it, I had a huge group of female friends and guy friends. And I would go have lunch with them and or her, and they would just tell me their frustrations. And I kind of understood where they were coming from. Like, oh, women want that exactly. I didn't know you guys needed days to get ready for a date, and now I understand why you're heartbroken when the guys ghost you or bail on you because you've been getting ready all week, to get your hair did and your nails done. I didn't know all that. So that's what I share. But guys think that's simp advice. And I'm like, no, that's just common courtesy, general advice. And it is kind of frustrating that, again, I've helped thousands of people. I never kept track, but I've helped thousands of people and thousands of marriages. Yeah. 5 men were going to commit, you know what? It's all my videos and they gave them hope. So that's great. But it's crazy how just being a gentleman and just being kind is considered weak and beta to these new men. I don't understand that.
It's a very confusing generation because, look about it. Look, they don't have necessarily the strongest family structures. Everyone from the baby boomers were not necessarily like the best role models when it comes to marriage.
They ignored,
my mom is on like her 4th marriage at this point. So if you think about that and how that's trickled down throughout society and throughout time, then we have the millennials and the Gen Xers that are having this Gen Z generation. And I'm seeing these videos that, these women are 40 body counts in and they're 23 years old. It's a very confusing time. I think we are in an all-time avoidant, anxious attachment. Nobody knows what it means to have a deep, meaningful relationship.
Because they've never seen one.
They've never seen one. They have no role models. So hopefully I think that's what we're changing, but people are coming to you. They're coming to the internet for answers and they're getting what's out there. They're getting the Tate message. They're getting, the Corey Waynes of the world. And no offense to him. I think he's fine, but there's other toxic advice out there. And that's where they're going. Unfortunately, it's going to take probably another generation to kind of turn the tides back.
Probably. Yeah. I just find that disconnect like shocking. Like simp, really? Like, no, dude, no, that's just being a man. Like, I don't get that, but you have to, if you don't speak or have the same, it's almost become an ideology, like a political, religious, whatever. It's become an ideology because that last guy I had on my podcast, again, just kind of repeating everything we've heard at the end of the show. He goes, I've achieved all this thanks to the red pill ideology. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that red pill framework. And I'm like, hold up. You kind of sound like a person who said, I wouldn't be here if I didn't find Christ. You see how this is kind of becoming an ideology. You seem like an ambitious young man. I think you're not giving yourself enough credit here. And you got a little triggered, but I meant it as a compliment. But just to hear them say, I devote all this, my success and who I am to the red pill. That's where I started seeing like, oh my God, some of these people view it. Yeah. Like an ideology.
And I've heard the guys on Fresh and Fit say that, chivalry is not rewarded. And I'm going, chivalry is not rewarded with the wrong women, but you keep on participating in that pool and that's what you're going to get. But chivalry with the right women is 100% appreciated. It is 100% appreciated. And the right woman will notice, but you can't date the 10s. If you want a woman who is going to appreciate you, then, guys, they talk out of both sides of their mouth in that community. They say, go after the hot women, but that woman doesn't necessarily have to work very hard. So she'll pass you up for the next guy. And then it creates this cycle of hatred amongst women. But chivalry is very much appreciated with the right woman. And when you see that it's not, then you cut your ties and you move on. But if simp is being chivalrous and texting in between dates, go ahead.
Be a simp, right?
Be a simp. Yeah.
Follow their advice. Let me know how it works out in 10 years. Let me know where you end up.
Exactly.
It's a shame. What's that?
No. Keep going.
No. Oh, I've lost my train of thought. Son of a gun. Now, Sarah, did you ever imagine you'd be in this position? I mean, this all took off pretty fast, but here you are. You said you're going to Miami, right? On some podcast pretty soon. Did you ever think this would happen? I mean, you're here. Look at you, and you're doing wonderfully. You're doing amazing.
No, not at all. Somebody were to ask me this 10 years ago, or even 2 years ago. I mean, I downloaded TikTok on the advice of one of my best friends who just kept on sending me these dumb videos during the pandemic. And I just thought, what the heck is this? Like, what is this app? And I thought, maybe I should try this. Like I have a pretty good presence on camera. Like I was a singer. I was a dancer in school. Like I can have my own platform, but the thing that really got me, Rudy, was when I did start posting the content, the amount of messages that were so touching from men and women. And of course you have to weave through all the crap, but to have a woman come in and write me a letter and say, I understand my husband more because of you. I'm so thankful. And a man say, I've never felt more validated in my life. Like I felt as though I'm speaking through you, and I share my videos, share your videos with the women in my life so that they understand me better. That is like, I always wondered what my purpose was in life because I'm not a mom. And I don't know if that was never really my thing. Like I knew I was meant for something, but I didn't know what it was. And it wasn't to be stuck in corporate America behind a desk. It wasn't to be, beholden to a company that told me that I had to get a vaccine. It wasn't any of that. Like it was sharing everything, sharing all the mistakes that I had learned and the pain that I went through in my own love life and in my own relationships. It's like, here, I was the experiment. Like I did all this. Let me share, like a parent does. Let me share with you the mistakes that I made so that you might hopefully make different decisions. And if that is my purpose on this planet, then I would have lived a good life. And I'm really happy about that. And this is just, it's kind of the beginning. It's only been a year, and I'm excited for the future holds. There's some plans in the future. I can't necessarily tell them right now, but there's plans in the future that I think that my audience is going to be very happy with. More
awesome.
Healing, more resources, more information. Because that's really the goal for all of us, is just to have nirvana, to be at peace with life.
You need to be on a TED Talk or Dr. Phil soon. you need to be there. I see it. I'm going to manifest that right now.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much.
One last question. What is your favorite song to sing?
Ooh. I am this has been a long time that I've sung this song. I've sung it at multiple different weddings. I have sung it. I play it on piano. It's a Alicia Keys song. Some people want it all, but I don't want nothing at all. If it ain't you, babe.
Wow.
That is like one of my favorite songs because it's like that piano intro.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? You hear that piano intro? It's just a beautifully written song, and I can kill it when I have a mic on me.
Well, I'm just shocked that you sang like, oh my God, that was wonderful. Like you really can sing. I've never seen a video of you singing, so that's pretty awesome.
I keep it under wraps.
Wow. Well, thank you, Sarah, for your time. And again, I've known you for about a year or so, and I'm proud to see my friend prospering the way you are, and you're making an impact in many lives. And I'm very proud of you. And I could not be more happier for you to be here. And again, this is just the beginning. So I wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Rudy. It's been an honor getting to know you and an honor continuing to get to know you.
Of course.
Thank you.